Hello, episode 3.
Episode 3, we've made it.
How's your week been?
It's been a good week.
Good.
What have we done this week? We've had Lydia's official diagnosis that she's autistic.
Yep.
So
When was that? Last Friday, wasn't it?
That was Friday, yeah. So we had a consultation with our paediatrician and one of the nursery experts who were at the panel. 10 minutes.
Is that what it was?
10-minute call. Guess what? Your kid's autistic. I know, shock, horror. Stuff like the way she interacts, the way she plays, those sort of things there, the key things. And came through. We'll get a report through, and that's it. There's nothing else. You don't get, like, it doesn't unlock level 5 to the next set of things that you have to do. It's just a report that comes out saying, yeah, it's confirmed she is autistic. That was it.
Flipping heck.
I know.
It's a weird one. I remember when ours came through, it was, mixed feelings.
Yeah,
between both of us.
How did you take it?
Badly.
Did you?
Yeah. I wanted it for Thomas, but yeah, it was just a bit of sweet.
Yeah.
Like we've said before, it's like that rubber stamp, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a rubber stamp.
Yeah.
It's
we wanted it, but it was Mish was much better in that. Cool, he's going to get what he wants. I just had this this emotion. I didn't realise I was going to be emotional about it. I don't know if I touched on it last week, but when I got it, I did. Yeah, I remember saying, like the nurse is rubbing my back. I think she was like, oh. And I was walking down the stairs apologising, and she was rubbing back. She went, "This is completely normal." I was like, I didn't think I'd get upset. I thought this is what I wanted for him, and she's like, "It's completely normal." Yeah. So got over that pretty quick, to be honest. It was just this weird emotional thing that was probably sitting inside me, and I hadn't let it out. And then when it came, I was just, but it was weird.
I took it differently.
Yeah.
I think because it had been such a long process. Yeah. And I was expecting it. Yeah. The call was almost like an inconvenience for me in a
I've
weird.
got stuff to do.
In a weird sort of way. I was like, they're not going to tell us anything we don't already know.
No.
So I was fully prepared for it.
Yeah.
We had the 10-minute chat. It was over. Kind of spoke to Selena, and Selena was kind of, I thought, oh, you're actually doing okay. She was like, yeah, well, it's what we expected. It's nothing new. And then I didn't think about it for the rest of the day. It was just like, it's done. And then just gradually as the weekend went on, it just like Selena thought about it more and more.
Oh, bit of a slow burn then.
So I think it was a slow burn for her. So she was kind of like, I don't really want to see anybody this weekend, and just kind of
fair enough
process it. So again, how you get the same result, but people take it differently.
Cool. So this week has been, I think it's been interesting. In the comments, it's the stuff that you talked about last week, really impactful, really powerful stuff, talking about the EHCP reform. You got quite emotional, I think, and not in a sad, cryy way like I would. You were pissed.
Yeah,
as so many people are.
It's just injustice, isn't it?
It sure is.
It's injustice, and I think we have to deal with enough shit as it is. Yeah. To keep piling it on and making us jump through more hoops, and then deciding, that hoop that you want to jump through, we're going to move it somewhere else, and you can try and find it there,
and we'll make it smaller.
And it's just daft, isn't it? I'm not going to get too political about this, but I've always said in the past, I always thought if you were a Labour MP, you probably came from a community similar to ours, working class background, and you got into politics because you wanted to genuinely make a difference and improve society. And I don't see how this reform is actually going to do that. No. And I expected more. Yeah. A lot more.
I mean, and I think the only answer, from my perspective, it's financial.
That's the only thing I can.
That's the only thing I can think of.
We've both looked at the stuff, and the only thing it seems to point to is the financial side of things.
And we seem to be spending money in some places and not in others, and the likes of our kids are going to lose out. As a result. So I think we were going to try and focus this one
on the
quite a bit on the
EHCP reforms.
EHCP reforms, maybe what our processes were in getting the EHCPs. Mine and yours were very different. Yeah. You did a sneaky little...
Yeah, I just used the technology around me, shall we say.
Fantastic, love it. Great way of putting it. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to cover the EHCP reforms, why the government say they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it'd be interesting to touch on some of the existing numbers that came up when we did some looking.
Yeah.
Because they are very interesting. The one that really jumped out to me massively was, and we've had some comments from people with some experience in tribunals when they've been denied an EHCP.
Yeah.
Some experts in the field and some parents that have also been through
Oh, yes.
it.
Yeah.
And for anyone that doesn't know, if you do get denied an EHCP and you go, get stuffed, we're having it because my child needs it, you could go to tribunal.
Mm-hmm. And that sounds scary.
Sounds really scary.
You hear tribunal.
It sounds mega scary.
Employment tribunals, everything is just think,
exactly. Courts, judges, panels.
Do I want to be putting myself through
Absolutely.
this? In this case, you do.
Absolutely, 100%. Especially when you find out that 98% of families that go to tribunal win.
Yeah.
Now, what does that tell you? Because straight away it tells me, okay, so I've spent years to get to tribunal to be told, okay, you can have an EHCP.
Yep.
So my child and us as a family have been suffering for years when you could have just given us the EHCP when we first requested it.
Yeah.
Mental.
And you then think, all right, there's two things that come into my mind because I'm in that cynical mode now.
Go.
Is like, why are the local authorities saying no?
Yeah.
If it goes to tribunal, there's 98% success rate.
Yeah.
Why are the LAs and whoever's involved there going, no, this kid or this child is not deserving of an EHCP? Again, is it because they're overwhelmed? Is it because there's not enough money? Mm-hmm. Ultimately, yes, it comes down to that, doesn't it?
Yeah, essentially.
If it's going to tribunal, the tribunal are going, of course this child needs an EHCP.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, why are we even having this discussion?
Yeah.
Off you go.
When the judge and the panel
see,
and this is where I'm going to throw a slight caveat in, is the years it takes to get to tribunal, during that process, you're getting a lot of advice.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of that advice might be, well, it will be, you're going to court, essentially, is what you're doing. You're going to be in front of a judge.
Yeah.
You're going to be mounting evidence up.
Yeah.
Now, I say this as a caveat. You shouldn't have to be a police officer who's gathering evidence for your kid. But ultimately, when you go to tribunal, if 98% are getting their EHCP, I would imagine it's because there's such a fuckload of evidence by the time they're in front of a judge and a panel that it's so obvious that it can't be denied.
Yeah.
Now, if that same amount of evidence could have been gathered further down the line or further previously when you were applying for your EHCP, now...
Would it have needed to go to tribunal?
Would it have needed to go to tribunal? Would it have been as easy to dismiss this child as not needing an EHCP? Now, we got an EHCP. I say quite easily, Thomas's autism is very profound, but we went, actually, I'll use this opportunity to talk about the process. So, Thomas, he went to, we knew at 18 months, we were like, something ain't right here. Now, we have a nursery directly opposite. We live in a village. We've got a nursery directly opposite primary school. It's one of these schools. It's a really old school where there was only a few classes, and in the junior school, the first and second years share a teacher and a classroom, and so on. Yeah, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and So now we had a relationship. We'd been over, and they did a toddler group over there. So Mish would take Thomas over there just to be around other children, just to try and get him used to a nursery setting, because essentially that was kind of the next stage, was getting him to a nursery. But what we ended up having to do, we had to register with a local nursery and take Thomas there. The baby steps we had to take to slowly introduce him into this nursery was insane. But the end goal, we knew what his needs were. The end goal was to set him up to fail in this nursery, because we knew he was going to, and then use that as evidence that, look, we've attempted a nursery setting, it hasn't worked. So we did this we would go, I think, 8 o'clock in the morning before any other children would get there. We'd get there for 8 o'clock. The teacher, fantastic, she would be there, and we'd take Thomas, and taking him anywhere unusual was a risky move anyway, but we'd take him there, and he'd kind of just, the first day, we were there 15 minutes. Walking around the class, looking at all the stuff, looking at all the books. Did that for about 15 minutes. Back in the car, gone.
Yeah.
Right. So we were like just slowly trying to get him used, and we do it once a week, every
God.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Right. We take him there. Very quickly, when we turned right out of our house, the only reason we turned right to go out of our drive was to go there. Meltdown immediately. Meltdown, because he was just like, I know where you're taking me. Bear in mind, he didn't spend the day there. There was no other children there. So we take him, we go in, we do another 15 minutes, maybe push to half an hour, same process, back in the car, leave. We did this for weeks.
Goodness me.
Right? But we were gradually extending the time closer to when the other children were going to be coming in. And I think the last one, just before the children did come in, we left as they were entering. So for Thomas, he's experiencing these other children coming in as he's leaving, right? And then we stayed there a little bit. And this was quite heartbreaking, really, because we were there for maybe 5 or 10 minutes after the children had arrived, and he's sitting there with all of his like letter cards and number cards, just like flicking through them and stuff, because that's what he likes doing. And I'd not experienced kind of children of this age apart from Thomas in a long time. Like I've said, I've got a 17-year-old now, so he was he was 13 at the time. So I'd forgotten what it was like to have a toddler, and these kids were coming in, and they saw a new kid in the class, and this one boy came over, and at this point Thomas is now having a meltdown, but these kids are coming over. Great kids, by the way, like amazing kids, really confident, which was nice.
Yeah.
They come over, hello, my name is this. Oh, what are these? I like these cards that your little boy's got. First of all, these kids are talking.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, oh my God. Like I've just been hit. Like Thomas should be talking. He should be asking me questions. He should be getting involved. And this little boy comes over and goes, hello, and Thomas is having a meltdown, and he comes over and just taps him on the shoulder. He goes, why's your little boy crying? Like, and I'm like, mate, I wish I could explain it to you. And the meltdown there was so bad. I think that was the last time we took him there. But then we spoke to the headmaster of the nursery, who he kind of managed the nursery because it's such a kind of small community. He managed the nursery and the primary schools. And he wrote a letter for us, a cover letter, essentially saying, this kid can't cope. Now, that as a piece of evidence was invaluable for a start. That was without all of the videos I talked about last week for the GP to get referral for a paediatrician, of him doing all of his stims and meltdowns and everything else. So that, plus that cover letter, was really impactful. So for us, it was very much a case of we had to put Thomas through something that we knew he would fail just to get this piece of paper to say he's failed at this.
And that's quite an uncomfortable thing to do.
Oh, horrible. Awful. Because especially when you know he doesn't want to go, and we one of the sessions we actually left and sat in the car outside for 10 minutes while, again, great school, they'd pulled another nursery teacher in early just to sit with Thomas and kind of be a one-to-one. They weren't funded for a one-to-one. We didn't have an EHCP yet.
Yeah. But
they just very kindly said, well, listen, we'll pull her out and we'll get her to sit with him. And when teachers, if it's been a rough day with your kid, they don't want to tell you. And I say day, he'd probably been there half an hour with this one-to-one. And I'm like, hey, how'd you get on? And he was like having a meltdown on her lap. It looked real sad. And you can just see he's been really upset. And how'd you get on? It's been okay, actually. And I'm like, you liar, you've had an awful time. So it was hard putting him through these situations, but sometimes, and you shouldn't have to, and this is kind of the point with this whole EHCP thing, you shouldn't have to put your kids through these little situations to evidence that there's an issue.
Yeah.
But we did. We'd made the decision to do it, and I'm so glad we did, because we got what we needed.
And if you hadn't have done that, maybe the first step from, I'm going to say the local authority would have been, well, you need to get him into a nursery.
Yeah.
And then you would have put him in there.
Yeah.
And then this would have happened and gone through it. But then you also think, well, how many other children are just constantly being told by the local authority or the education system, no, get your kid into the mainstream school. And then this happens day in, day out. Mm-hmm. And that's the reality of what they've got to do whilst they're fighting for a tribunal or something like that.
Yeah.
But
you made a really good point earlier when you said, like, some people just trust the system. So obviously we've got this kind of little community we've created. I say little, it's like it's
growing,
big.
isn't
It's
it?
growing, yeah.
It's growing.
But this community we've made, and everyone in it is very vocal, which is great, because everyone's been able to share their thoughts and experiences across the board, and other people are able to read that. there'll be some parents that trust the system so much that they probably don't go onto these groups. They probably just go, okay, if you tell me my kid doesn't need an EHCP, I'm just going to have to trust you.
Me and Selena were those people at the start.
Yeah.
So when Lydia was born, Selena was working for the NHS. So she took 12 months off and then returned to work. So we got Lydia into a local kind of nursery to look after for a couple of days whilst she was at work and I was at work. And after a while, we noticed a different. She's got autistic traits. We went down that path. We started the EHCP process, and we worked in conjunction with the nursery, and we were very trusting. And it got to the stage where Lydia was supposed to move up a year group, and we got called in for a meeting by the nursery head. I'm not going to name them, but they brought us in, and they said, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to meet Lydia's needs moving up to the next year group. We already have a child that's autistic, and we don't have the capacity to be able to help. So from our side of things, you're going to have to find a new setting for Lydia. So we left the meeting kind of heartbroken, going, oh my God, what are we going to do? We thought we had a good relationship, we were very trusting. And then we got in touch with I can't remember who it was now, somebody within the local authority, or he was looking after the EHCPs, and they turned around to us and said, we've been told by the nursery you've pulled your child out of this setting. And we were like, no, we've literally been kicked out of there by the nursery. And they were like, oh no, the head there rang us and said that you've taken the decision to pull your child out. And that's when we realised that we can't trust anybody.
Why?
In this process at that moment in time.
That's incredible.
That was just like, we were walking out there going, well, as working parents, we're a little bit screwed now as well, because trying to get a child at that age who's got an EHCP into a nursery setting, we're talking like, she was like 2.5, 3.
Yeah.
And Selena, blessed her, rang everywhere. We were looking all around the town. We were going out the town. We were then going into the county to try and find. And everyone was like, "Oh no, we can't take anybody on. We're at full capacity for kids with additional needs." And luckily, it's worked in our favour. We found an amazing childminder, Sue, and she has been absolutely fantastic with Lydia. She understands her. She's so patient with her, and she's been with her about 12 months, and she has come on leaps and bounds. But it was just an example of, you go in there and you're very green at the start. You will listen. And you think like, I'm talking to somebody who's like a nursery head or a head of an educational facility. They know the process. I'm gonna trust them and work with them together for the child's benefit. But ultimately, you learn sometimes the hard way that they don't have the child's interest at heart. It's about, again, what makes their life easier, and money and capacity.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Was there any kind of comeback for that?
Nah, absolutely nothing. We'd withdrawn, and the place had already gone. Well, we didn't withdraw. We got told there's no room at the inn, so to speak.
Why?
And that was it. Yeah, just go out there and find another spot for your child.
That's nuts.
Yeah,
I can't believe that.
Yeah, but that's just an example that we've gone through, and we've had to go, right. We can't be trusting of whatever we're told. We're going to have to toughen up now.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to actually scream and shout for Lydia. And we've had discussions ourselves going, it shouldn't be the case that, we talked about this being a community, whether it's a local one or international, or national one, is that whoever kicks up the fuss the most sometimes, whoever shouts, whoever's a bit more clued up in what to say in an email or a letter, will get a place, but at the same time, it screws somebody else over.
Yeah, actually, that's the thing. So by being more vocal, you're essentially screwing.
So going back to Lydia getting a place at the specialist school, there's 15 places. We are absolutely delighted we've got her in. It's our child. We're absolutely delighted. At the same time, I've got to reflect and think, for that one place, how many other families missed out?
Yeah, I mean, and this is another way to think about it. Did another family who have a child with more needs lose out because you guys were more vocal?
Yeah, were we more vocal? Were we a bit more savvy in the sense of that? Right, an email's come back to us now. Review it straight away. I'm sending it straight back in with some direct action that I want to take place. And I've said to Selena, I will, and she will, be a thorn in the sides of whoever we're dealing with, from the local authority, to make sure we get what we want, and that they just, hopefully, and I've said to Selena, what I want them to do is go, these parents are going to be a pain in the arse.
Yeah.
I don't want to be dealing with them. Let's just look at trying to get them what they want.
Yeah.
And it sounds a really shit thing to say and do, but ultimately it's worked. But at the same time, again, could there have been another family or a child with far worse needs than Lydia, that just maybe were too trusting, too laid back, and subsequently they could have missed out. Something
kept coming up in the comments, actually. You touched on it with it was about how with this whole thing with the EHCP and getting refused an EHCP, as a parent you have to end up like learning the law. Like you have to become an expert in a field where you're just trying to be a parent, and the EHCP is hard enough as it is. EHCP, DLA, all of it is an absolute minefield. Yeah. But when you've got to try and learn all of that and deal with the day-to-day of raising an autistic or just a disabled child in general, but now you've got to become an expert in this field that you shouldn't have to be an expert in.
You become an expert, become an advocate.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just sit there late at night and go, I've literally got enough on my plate.
Yeah.
I've got enough on my plate. And then you're trying to juggle work and everything else like that. And most families, there's also other things going on apart from just a child with additional needs. So you're just absolutely bombarded with stuff.
Should we talk about, some of the comments that came, obviously, like I said, it was a really emotive subject, and we had a lot of comments from a lot of parents. I wasn't going to read out people's usernames, but they've put it in the comments in the chat, so we can say the usernames, can't we?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
But Annie 2321, hi Annie, ignored, had to learn the law.
Yeah.
Exhausted, repeating themselves. Like, says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like
repeating yourself.
It's a little bit like when you get, like, Thomas, he has issues with his ear infections and stuff, which seems to be a common trope with autistic kids. I don't know why. And it's kind of on the trust thing as well. It's like, we go to these appointments, and even these appointments, this is nothing to do with the HCP, but medical appointments, he had a really bad turn in his eye.
Lydia's got one.
The amount of... Have you had loads of eye appointments to go to?
Because we got put on a waiting list for an eye appointment. They said it could be like 10 months.
Mate.
Right. And then, no, it gets better. And then I rang them when we got to about 9 months. And they said, "Oh, I'm really sorry about that. We can't find the referral."
And that is the trusting the system bit I was going to come on to.
And this was in the early... Yeah, this is exactly right. This was in the early days where we did trust... It's a bit pain in the arse that there's a 9-month waiting list. But then we were like, but they're doing the best that they possibly can.
Well,
which I'm not here to shit on people that work in this field.
Individuals, it's the system that's the problem.
Yeah, it's not individual. If you want to go and work as occupational therapist, speech and language, hats off to you. Yeah. You're doing valuable work. You are just underfunded and bombarded and snowed under with so many cases to deal with. That's not the problem. But trusting the system, I waited 9 months. I thought I'll give him a quick call. No referral. Real sorry about that. We'll put one in now. Guess what? We never even received that as well. We just...
Well, this is fucking nuts. Yeah. We get an eye appointment, I think, like every 3 months.
What?
It's like we just keep going in for these eye appointments, and the turn is getting better. Actually, it's almost gone as far as I'm concerned. We have to keep repeating ourselves, like Annie said. Yeah. The amount of times I walk in there and I now go, "Have you read his notes? Do you know he's autistic?" Because they talk to him like, "Hey Thomas, how are you? How's your weekend been? Work busy?" Like and I'm sitting, I'm like, "I've just asked you if you've read his notes about his autism." "Oh yeah." I just wish, and again, this is going to be down to individuals. Like, just take a note. Just take a note. Non-verbal, like autistic, non-verbal, doesn't like this test. Yeah. Is okay with this test. Keeps doing the same person. Yeah. Keeps doing the same test over and over again, and then keeps asking us if we've got any ideas of things that he might look at. Because for an eye test, they try to get him to look at these things. Never does it. Hasn't done it once in the 3.5, 4 years that we've been taking him to these. goes about every 3 months, which is crazy. Like that's nuts. So you can't get one.
We can't get one.
We get 4 a year.
Yeah.
Like
We're in the same local authority.
Yeah, exactly. Like what the fuck? Like it's nuts.
Same trust. NHS
We're actually
trust.
at the point where we don't want anymore. We're like, can you just sign him off?
Yeah.
If his eye starts turning again, we'll let you know. Like, because it's just, again, because when he's in school, going off topic again. Actually, that's why I love this podcast. We just keep go all over the place. But like, even appointments for parents, when you do get them, they're very much a case of you've now got a plan. Okay, so I've got to take him out of school. Okay, well, we've just got him used to going on the bus and coming back on the bus. But now I've got to rock up at school. That's going to be confusing.
Yeah.
He's very happy when he sees us because he pretty much knows that's it, I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm leaving.
School's done.
But what if that appointment is at 11 o'clock? Yeah. And you go to the appointment, well, I can't take him back to school now. I've got to take him home. So the next day, is he expecting a school day that's only going to last a few hours? Like, it's just this...
Yeah.
Just this absolute nightmare of things that, like, typical parents have to think about. There's always, like, you got to hop, skip, jump through all these hoops of, okay, well, if we do this, then we'll have to do that. And what's the knock-on effect going to be tomorrow? All for an appointment that, ultimately, I don't think he needs anymore.
Yeah.
For staff that do the appointment that kind of do nothing now. They kind of, because they don't know what to get him to do because he won't look at stuff and they've not got anything in their notes from the previous billion appointments he's had. So it's just like the system just like, and this is the NHS, this isn't even the EHCP. Like, so many systems within government just don't make sense. And I don't necessarily think it's about more money. I think it's about optimising the money you're spending now, so that there's funds there. And I err on the side of that. I dread to think how much money's being wasted by inefficient systems.
Yeah.
When I bet there's loads.
Well,
I bet there's a shit ton of money that just gets spaffed because nothing's been done properly.
Yeah, well, it will be like that, won't it?
It's bound to be.
Let's be honest. I mean, you also get chief execs that go into new trusts on mega money, don't you?
Yeah.
And they seem to kind of move around from one trust to another. It's like, right, I'm in charge of this trust now. I'm going to make a maximum impact, and they go in there and they kind of make these changes, and then. Right, I've justified what I've done and that'll get me my next job, and then they bounce somewhere else. Yeah. And then another chief exec then takes over and goes, I'm going to put my mark on it now, and rechanges everything the person that did before, you know. Yeah. It's just, and that's just one example of one level of kind of job role, but you can imagine the entire IT systems, everything else like that.
Yeah, it's going to be a mess. I mean, that was one of the points with the EHCP reform is what they wanted to do. They wanted to, one of the reasons... one of the things they wanted to do with the EHCP was make EHCPs digital, which sounds, and it's going to be a really slow rollout apparently, but that sounds really good. I think paper trails and emails and all that shit is just a bit of a nightmare. Even that form that we filled in 5 years ago, the same one you filled in, that tick box of like, you know...
And you know it's come from the NHS because it's on that really awful NHS paper,
it's
which isn't
like
quite
grey.
white. It's grey.
It was, There you go. We even had the same colour paper.
Yeah.
That shitty, not white paper.
Yeah. But you know, if they said, like, it was digital, it would speed things up.
Yeah, massively.
It would speed things up. And then, you know... you want to update something? Bang! I'm just going to log in there. I can see the notes. I'll fill it out. I'll update it.
Why haven't we done that already?
Straight across, and I know instantly that they've got it. Yeah. There's no confusion or it's in. Oh dear, yeah. You know the person. This is another thing. The person you emailed it to. That we haven't updated our website. They no longer work in this department. They've moved somewhere else. Yeah. So, I'm really sorry. No one's kind of got back to you.
Yeah. If everyone just had a login.
We just have a
log into a system.
There you go.
Anything you need to report. Any changes.
Yeah.
EHCP's there. Any changes you want to make to the EHCP, like it could just all be there.
Yeah.
And it's 2025. I can't believe we haven't done it yet. It's absolutely nuts.
Late at all.
But this is the thing with the 50% of EHCPs that don't hit the 20-week.
The time limits.
Yeah, the 20-week
time limit.
The legal time limit. 50% of them don't make that mark.
And with it being a legal time limit, what's the repercussions for?
Exactly. Why make it legal?
Yeah.
What's the point? There's no repercussions for breaking the law. What's the point? But I mean, there's some more comments here. Becky's boys too. She's meeting her MP.
Yeah.
Scared to speak, but she's doing it anyway. Like something she really feels anxious about doing, but she knows she's got to do it. Why does she have to do that?
Yeah.
Why does she have to go speak to a fucking MP?
Yeah. to get the best for her child, I've got to contact my member of parliament.
It's just nuts.
Yeah.
Like Lucy Ham, what can we do? Like kids suffering delays. So again, like it's back onto the 98% success rate for families going for tribunal. Yeah. How long does it take for a tribunal? It's got to be a couple of years.
It could be. I'd work in HR, and the employment tribunals can. There's so many. We could wait months and months just to collate all the evidence.
Yeah.
Then it would be a first, review of it. Some of it may be kicked back. Some of it may be, we'll take that further to tribunal, and then the whole hearings can take a couple of years in themselves. So, if with the changes that they're planning, the tribunal system, the backlog's going to get even bigger.
Yeah.
It's now we need to spend more money on actually having more tribunals and getting more judges involved. And
I'm sure there's something in place theoretically. I'm going to err on the side of giving them a little bit of credit. I don't. I'm saying that, I'm not even sure if I can believe it, that they're just going to rip away these EHCPs. I'm hoping we just haven't heard about it yet. That there's something else that they're planning on putting in place. Have you heard of anything that they're looking to replace it with?
No, I haven't.
No, you're right. I'm just
super EHCP.
Yeah,
no,
like it's going to be like EHCP light for kids that are going to mainstream.
Yeah.
So I'm just erring on the side of.
We'll just replace it with a transparent EHCP that no one can actually find or see.
You've got it. Have I? Well, I did send it.
I did send it to you.
Where is it? It's transparent.
It's transparent, mate. Why's your kid not in school?
There's stuff on here. I mean, how exhausting the process is.
Yeah.
Parents having to become legal experts.
Yeah.
Reform. Somebody made a really good point. This isn't reform. Who was that? Divergent lives. This isn't reform. It's re-traumatization.
Yeah. Yeah, that was interesting.
But I get it is like you finally learn the shit system that you've got, and then they go, that shit system we've got, we're going to change it. It's probably going to be as shit.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to relearn that system as well.
Yeah.
It's like, cool, great. Can we just
all
fix
the old shit now? We don't need that. You need to learn the new shit.
Can we just fix what we've got?
Yeah. I think she also, not so much, but I think in the comments there, you could see it's almost like gaslighting.
Yeah.
Families and parents. I think she was kind of making a point that parents feel the system is not failing quietly. It's going out there and it's actively harming.
Yeah.
The children it's supposed to protect and support. It isn't reform, it's re-traumatization. And then she said, I think, behind every streamlined process is a child broken by exclusion, restraint, or silence.
Oh, I like that. That's a hell of a comment.
That's a big one, isn't it? That is a big one. And the effect it is going to have on families is going to be huge.
Yeah.
It's going to be huge. Again, I think it was sort of Katie_Andrews85. It's cost cutting disguised as reform. Yeah, we've touched upon that. They framed it as efficiency, but in reality, it's removing essential support. And these decisions will have a wider, more expensive ripple effect in the future on mental health, crime, disengagement, and everything else like that.
You're going to end it, like I said last week, there's going to be more. This is going to be the one occasion where they're okay with people homeschooling their children, of course. Normally they don't like it, but now they'll be like, oh, the ones that need additional... Yeah, you can homeschool those ones, that's fine. But you're also going to have to come out of work to do that. So you're going to have to lose your... So now you're not going to be paying any taxes, so that's going to be less money going into the system to support everybody that needs it. I don't want to think.
I know, we started this and we're just learning more and more, but... The amount of comments that we've heard from people saying, I've had to give up my career. Mm-hmm. I have had to give up my career to look after my child. And some people go, well, it's your child, you're supposed to anyway. That's not the point. The system is supposed to be there to support them in these situations. Yeah. And they've gone, look, I've had to give up everything and just stay at home now and try and homeschool my child. And even homeschooling your child, they can turn around and absolutely screw you. We had a bit of chat with a gentleman who, in short, it's I spoke to you about this yesterday. It's a serious case.
Oh,
His
yeah.
daughter's 8 years old. I'm not going to mention him because we're probably going to get him on the podcast in the future. But in short, his daughter's 8 years old. They forced her into a mainstream school. She clearly wasn't fit enough for a mainstream school, to the extent that she became suicidal at 8 years old. She was saying to her dad, "I'd rather be in heaven than go to school." They got psychiatric reports from specialists saying, your daughter is actually suicidal. There's a lot of stuff going here. The cause of these feelings is the educational setting that she's in. All right, so he's got this evidence saying it's the educational setting that she's in. So he would, on those days where it was too extreme, not put her into that environment, which any sane parent would do that.
Of course.
Rather than support him, the local authority came about and said, "Your child has missed so many days from school, we're going to prosecute you." And they went to prosecute the father in this situation. Even though there's GP notes, psychiatric reports, and we're dealing with an 8-year-old girl. And when he took her to the school would physically manhandle the child off the parent and take her into school, because that's the only way they could get her into that environment.
And she was 8.
She's 8 years old. And I thought, we exchanged a few voice notes, and I thought, fucking hell, this must just be like an extreme case. And I'm going through these comments, and I'm seeing what's coming round the corner with this EHCP reform. This could be not as uncommon as we think it is.
Yeah, this could be an epidemic.
Except with the proviso now, if this bill does go through, my understanding is, and I may be wrong, but my understanding is that in certain circumstances, the child will lose its voice, the parents will lose their voice for their own child, the local authority will step in and be that voice, and you can take that as you will. Whatever decision they make now goes.
Yeah.
You don't adhere to it, you could face up to a year in prison. So, as a SEND parent, you are dealing with enough shit as it is. What do you do in that scenario? Do you send your kid into an environment which has really affected them to the extent that a child as young as 8 years old is potentially thinking, I don't want to be here anymore?
Can't even fathom that. 8 years old, suicidal at 8 years old.
Or do you go to prison?
At which point you're not with your child anyway.
Yeah.
So how do you protect him when you're in prison? What do you do?
Yeah. And what sort of people are going to be working in the local authority that want to make that decision?
Yeah. And there's going to be people that are working in the local authority that will think this is insane.
Yeah, I'm again, this is not us, again, being quite blunt, this is not shitting on people that work there. It's navigating the system.
Yeah.
But
in fact, I'd imagine the majority of people working in the local authority will think this is insane, because they're the ones that see it firsthand. They're kind of the frontline workers, as it were. They'll know how nuts all of this is.
Yeah.
Even with the new reforms they were talking about, because obviously the whole thing with EHCPs and support nationally is it's a bit of a postcode lottery. Like, depending on where you live.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people that will move. I think Shropshire, we're pretty good as far as across the whole of the UK. Yeah. I think Shropshire is one of the better ones. But there's people that move. They just get the whole family,
just relocate,
root them up, leave jobs to relocate just for the support that they'll get in another county. Yeah. And
everyone knows what it's like if you're in a city.
Oh my
in
God!
A city, Birmingham, Manchester,
exactly.
London, whatever the case may
exactly
be.
Right.
But
they're thinking now of giving. When you do get an EHCP, you'll then get a selection of schools.
Yeah.
And this is your choice. Now, the choice of school that you want might not be on there. It might be hubs, it might be mainstream schools that have got something. Yeah. But they just give you a choice of schools, and it's like, that's it, pick one of them.
Yeah, deal with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Deal with it.
How much choice do some of these counties have?
Yeah.
2?
Yeah.
1? Are there no choices?
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, I don't know. I feel very fortunate in the situation we're in because we've got Thomas's autism is so profound. We're lucky. We're lucky that his autism is so bad that we get the provisions, or he gets the provisions he needs. Which is, it's a weird sentence to say.
Yeah.
You know, we've got a lifetime of not knowing what to expect, and I always harp on about it, like when we're gone. We've got all that, but at least he's recognised as one of those kids that needs almost the full whack of support.
And there's so many people in the comments that have also said that they've got children that their needs aren't high enough for specialist provision, but they can't cope in mainstream. So they can't even go into this one box or the other box. They're just literally in the middle, and the system goes, well, we're stretched at the moment. We're going to deal with the people that, like you say, have the profound needs, and you're going to have to suck it up and just deal with it, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And these are probably the people that as well are going to be massively affected by the reforms that come through. They go, well, your child's not autistic enough.
Yeah.
I'm afraid. So we're going to stick them in mainstream with neurotypical kids and other kids who are on the spectrum, shall we say. And just deal with it. Let us know what GCSEs they get, and that's it. Yeah.
Oh my God. So should we talk a bit about the tribunal process, like why you might need to go tribunal? Essentially, it's if you disagree with the local authority's decision not to give you an EHCP.
Yeah.
That's essentially what gets you there. Now, currently, you are supposed to contact a mediator if you disagree, and then you enter mediation between yourself and a representative from the local authority and hash it out, essentially. Yeah. Currently, you don't have to do that. All you have to do is contact the mediator. You can contact the mediator, say, I don't want to do mediation, and the mediator will write you a letter which you can then use as evidence when you go to tribunal. With the new reforms, they're getting rid of that. You have to go to mediation.
Yeah.
Which, again, mediation might be a good thing for some people because it might mean that they can avoid going to tribunal. But the vast majority of cases that go to mediation, they still get denied, so they have to go to tribunal anyway. There'll be a few cases that manage it, but most don't. They're forcing everyone to go to mediation now. This is just going to extend timescales even further.
Well, thank goodness we've got so many mediators just sat at home,
loads just sitting there waiting around
for this to happen.
Yeah,
but then again, like I'd be really cynical and go like, you know, it's is it like mediators with the child courts when parents split up? Is it not going to be free, or does it start off free and then? After 5 years, we'll change it and we'll make it. It's only £100. It's only £100 to go to a mediator.
I've had some experience with mediators.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, where does it's just another step.
Yeah,
another step in the process. And if you go through the mediator, you know, if the local authorities now, we know looking at the stats, they're about roughly every local authority is probably about 100 million in deficit. Because of kind of the EHCPs and the knock-on effect. So these reforms come in, and the reforms are there to save money, to kind of make it more kind of, you know, you're getting more bang for your buck from the government's point of view. So if it means we're here to save money, that means there must be a target for each local authority to hit. And they'll say, well, you need to reduce this by, I don't know, I'll use a rough figure, it might not, you know, just for examples, you need to reduce it by 25%. Okay? They work out the figures. That means there are so many places for each kid.
Yeah.
With additional needs.
Yeah. Very straightforward. If they've got a target,
there's a
number.
That means there's a number attached to it.
Yeah.
And for it to be a reform and save money, that usually means you have to reduce that number.
Yeah.
So they'll come around, they'll have a limited amount of numbers there. So even if you go to mediation and they entertain you and you go through the process, the likelihood, if they've got a set number and they're going to go, well, we can't do it.
Yeah.
We can't do it.
It doesn't matter what the mediator...
So effectively what you've done is wasted your time getting more stressed and worked up. we now employ mediators, which we didn't need to before, which I guess they're not going to be working for minimum wage, are they?
No, they fuck.
And then we've taken out people from the kind of local authority, the education side of things, to attend these mediations when they could be working on other stuff.
Yeah.
It's just, again, another hoop that you're going to have to jump through to get to the tribunal, which at the moment is a 98%.
I still can't
success
believe
rate.
that 98% is not. It's just insane.
Unless the government then goes for the judges at the tribunals and say, look, it's a bit high, this. Have you thought about reducing it by 25%?
Yeah, exactly.
And doing it that way. So the trust in the system.
I mean, we both agree that reform's needed, I'm guessing.
Well,
The EHCP system needs reform.
It looks like it's aging a bit.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. If it's this, we've talked about even just the paperwork associated with it. If you could remove the paperwork, that's great.
Yeah.
But what it shouldn't be at the cost at, though,
No.
is having to decide which family is more fortunate than
100%.
the other. Which child is more deserving.
Exactly right.
Of
If
the
it
other.
needs reform, it's internal reform. It shouldn't be affecting anyone on the outside. The reform should be because 98% of their tribunals are being accepted. Fine. So you need to be accepting more EHCPs early on. Not denying more. Accepting more EHCPs further down the line. That would save a shitload of money. Yeah. And the fact that 50% of them aren't hitting their 20-week deadline, that's another reason it needs reform. Yeah. Those are two great reasons to get reform.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't be reducing the amount of EHCPs. It's just going to... A teacher commented, I actually know her, she commented on one of them the other day, and she's a teacher at a mainstream school. Even she's like, it's so common sense. She's like, yeah, no, like, we need more, not less.
Yeah.
Because they're having to deal with these children with these additional needs, and if they're in mainstream, a lot of them, if you walk past them in the street, you wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah.
You could probably hold a conversation with them, wouldn't have a clue. But I think, especially with girls, I'm stereotyping slightly here, but girls tend to mask. So I've heard.
Yes.
I know. I saw another podcast.
Maybe people that disagree.
I saw another podcast the other day where people were saying that wasn't the case. I'm not female, nor do I have a daughter. Yeah. But I've always heard that females tend to mask their autism, and then when they get home, that's when they release it.
Yeah.
Right? Now, that would also account, again, I'm not an expert, that would also account for the increased number of boys being diagnosed with autism at a younger age, but then this increase in women being diagnosed at a later age.
Yep.
That would make sense. Yeah. But yeah, it's just these kids are there. They're there now. They need the help.
Yeah.
Even the ones that slip through the net because they don't seem like they're that bad or that profound, they still need the help.
Yeah.
And there's a shitload more that wouldn't... I mean, kids... I've got to be careful. Kids I know that are autistic and they went to a mainstream hub. That makes me think that these types of kids are the ones that aren't going to be getting these EHCPs.
Yeah, more than likely.
Yeah. And that doesn't compute in my head because they clearly need them.
Yeah. And
it clearly helped them. And one of them is going to university to do law. And the other lad, don't know what he's doing. Absolute legend. He's brilliant. It's needed. Yeah. It's needed. I wouldn't call them profoundly autistic, but they need this. They need these EHCPs.
If you're in the teaching profession now, yeah, say you're a teacher.
Oh my God.
Right, this is like other things that you need to consider. You know, you've done your degree, you've done your PGCE, I think it's called, and you know you're probably, say you're a 25-year-old and you're going into teaching, and then you're met with a class now which includes 5 neurodiverse kids in there as well.
Yeah.
And you're trying to teach them about Henry VIII and everything that's going on, the Tudor period or whatever the case may be, or trying to teach maths or science, and you've got 5 kids that just can't sit still, can't regulate themselves, can't learn in
ADHD,
the manner that a typical school
yeah.
wants to put out there.
Yeah.
And then that becomes disruptive for the rest of the class.
Yeah.
Are we going to be in a stage where teachers just have burnout and just go, I can't cope with this, and leave the profession or take time out as well?
And that's what I mean when I say this seems... I can't believe there's nothing else in place that we're just not aware of, because this seems like such an obvious problem.
Yeah.
Further down the line.
Yeah, it's like short-term fix now. We'll sort this out, and
Let's see what happens.
Yeah, and by which time, if you're really horrible, they may go, well, we probably won't be in government. It'll be somebody else's problem to fix. But we can then say we did this reform and it saved X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And that what we'll go out on. But it's just passing the buck to somebody else. But like you say, it goes on. But yeah, reforms is needed. Let's make it, a better system for parents, not a worse system. The kids are still going to be there. They're still going to be diagnosed, and there's still going to be kids send families with children with additional needs. That's not going to change by reforming the system. That number is always going to be there.
Yeah.
Okay. You can try and fiddle the books as much as you want. That number's still going to be there. You wouldn't have a supermarket go, oh my God, there's so many people queuing up the tills. I know what we'll do. We'll open up more tills to help people. That makes sense. You wouldn't have a supermarket go, oh my God, there's too many people queuing up the tills. I know what we need to do. Have fewer customers.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get rid of the tills. Queues will be longer, so people will just go, well, I'm just going to leave.
Yeah. It's just absolutely bonkers that they're potentially kind of, the mindset is what it is. But,
yeah.
I mean, we talked before, like money. There seems to be money for certain things and money not for other things.
And everybody can throw their own thoughts out as to what that is. We probably agree on a lot of them, disagree on some of them.
But one thing that the government have done, and I'll bring up the exact figure. So,
this is a good one.
I've got it right.
This is good.
Is the government are committed to investing 4.7 billion into expanding the prison capacity across England and Wales. So 4.7 billion pounds they do have, and that'll build 3 new prisons, and it will house an extra 14,000 prisoners by 2031. So that equates to £100,000 per prison place. And we're asking for, if a kid's in mainstream school, £6,000 to £10,000 for an EHCP.
Yeah.
If the needs in a specialist school are so extreme, it could be £40,000. But that money could have helped an extra 117,500 children, rather than just helping 14,000 prisoners in some super prisons.
Yeah.
So if your kid does fail at school, at least they've got somewhere to stay in the future, in 15, 20 years' time, when they're absolutely screwed up because the education system failed them.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Unless there's something in their pocket that they're not telling us yet. Some fantastic... I'm sure there isn't. I'm just hoping there is.
No.
I'm just hoping there is. It ain't going to work. Teachers are going to quit left, right and centre.
Teachers are quitting. Any system that's overloaded, there's only so much that people can cope with who work in that system.
Yeah.
And there are some great people who have gone into these roles for absolutely the right reason, to make a difference. And, these people we need to cherish, we need to look after.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how good you are and how passionate you are. If you're getting burnt out and just overloaded, and you're getting families who, unfortunately, may take it out on the individual they see face to face, because that's the only person we get to see.
Yeah.
The rest of it is just letters and emails that we send, and we don't know who those individuals are. Sometimes you can be quite blunt with the person who's trying to help you, because you've not seen anybody for 6 months. You've not spoken to anybody about an update, and you just feel absolutely fed up. How long before all those good people go, this ain't for me?
Yeah.
This ain't for me.
Absolutely fair play to him.
I'm off.
Totally understandable.
And then the system that you've now built, you've ended up building it on sand, and it just falls apart.
Do we have a number for how many children have EHCPs in mainstream currently? Like, how many aren't going to get EHCPs?
Let's have a look at the figures. So as of January 2024, approximately 54.4% of children and young people with an EHCP in England are educated in mainstream schools. In terms of absolute numbers, in England in, I think, January 2024, there were 434,000 pupils with an EHCP. That obviously doesn't take into account the children in Wales, and I know Scotland has a different system. And of these, around 236,000 are in mainstream settings. And an interesting stat here is children and young people with new EHCPs initiated in 2023, almost 75% of them have been placed in mainstream schools.
Wow.
So a significant increase from 2023 of where they want children with EHCPs to be.
Wow.
And that's mainstream. And obviously they'll say that that's underscores the increasing importance of adequate support and resources in these settings to meet those children. So
wow.
Some big numbers.
Shit.
Some big numbers.
Well, it's going to be really, really interesting to see how that turns out. Right. God, it's a bit of a depressing one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Should we talk about what we were supposed to talk about on the end of the podcast? Good stuff, bad stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think if there's been any bad stuff this week. I think we may have had a good week.
Oh, man, that's good.
In that sense, I mean, obviously, I touched upon it at the start. We got the official diagnosis, so that's done now.
So that's like a bit of a good and a bad, really, for the two of you.
Yeah.
How you kind of
yeah
both took it on. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So that's a bit of good and bad. Trying to think what else happened. You know, with non-verbal kids, Lydia does this. She makes sounds. She'll babble on.
Yeah.
Occasionally, you hear them make a sound that sounds like a word, and I've done it in the past. Go, oh my god, she said a word. And then she just goes around just repeating it, and it's not a word, but the one that she's shouting at the moment at the top of her voice is dyke.
Dyke?
So she goes around just
Fantastic.
shouting dyke at the moment. So
Brilliant.
I'm looking forward to our next trip to a supermarket where
Amazing.
she just shouts dyke at people. So
Thomas has had a select few words. For a kid that's non-verbal, he said diamond.
Diamond?
Yep. There was a Shape song on his YouTube.
Wow.
He was in the middle of us.
Yeah.
Mish was, and I was on the other side, and he just went. It was like the song goes, a diamond, can you see a diamond? And he went, diamond, and we both went. We were just sitting on two. We both went. And as parents, and you guys will all know this, you go, diamond.
Yeah.
Thomas said diamond, and he's like, nah, ain't.
No.
I'm not performing, monkey.
We don't repeat.
And he's another one where he would. There was, I think it was an Incy Wincy Spider song.
Yes.
And he was singing it essentially, but he wasn't singing the words, but he was matching the pitch of the person that was singing it. And there's like a deep part of it and a really high pitched part of it. And he was singing essentially. He was kind of matching the tone, and we recorded it, and he's never done it since. And that diamond, he did that very early on. In fact, you know what? I think maybe we just accepted the diagnosis. It was kind of around that very, very early.
Yeah.
And he's never done any of this stuff since. In fact, he used to do these kind of things more then than he does now. Now he's very much like Lydia, just random noises.
When they say something like that, you reach for the phone automatically to like take a video of it.
Yeah.
There's so many times like Lydia's done something, and I thought, oh my god, that's amazing. I must take the video. As soon as I've got the camera ready, she'll look at me and just go, no, not today.
Same with Thomas.
Not today.
Dogs are the same.
Yeah.
My dogs are the same. If I put a camera on him, my dog Brody, big black Labrador, he's absolutely he's the best dog. He'll come over to you, get a camera out, and he's just turns his head like, nah, I ain't performing for you, dude. I'm all right, fine. Thomas is exactly the same.
Has anything pissed you off this week?
No, nothing's really pissed me off with relating to Thomas and his autism. Not really. Nothing's pissed me off. He's had this thing. He holds his ears a lot. He's very sensitive to sound. Very common trait, obviously, and he'll kind of covers his ears a lot. Problem is, he does that when he's got an ear infection as well.
Oh no.
He had ear infections like all the time, to the point where we got him in for a referral to see is it ENT? Yeah. And recently, he's been doing this a lot, but it's because of loud noises.
Right.
So then a couple of days ago, Mish realised he was getting a bit poorly, and she thinks he's got an ear infection again. And it just kind of reminds you, because they can't communicate, how long has he potentially had this pain in his ear? And we thought it was just noise that was the issue. But like a lot of these kids, I don't want to speak for all of them, but they just seem to just crack on.
Yeah.
Like, they could be sick or in pain, and they just kind of get on with it, which is, I find is really sad. Because I can help you with that, mate, but you can't tell me. But it was just another reminder that he'd had a referral around Christmas time, and we still haven't heard anything. Now, because of this, I'm now feeling I'm going to have to chase. But again, even now, I just trusted the system.
Yeah.
I just trusted. He's been referred. NHS is overstretched. They're going to. Guarantee when I call on Tuesday, they're going to go, oh, yeah, we haven't got a referral. Guarantee that's what's going to happen. Guarantee it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my bad, if anything. It's just this like, oh,
He's
you know,
isn't it? Yeah.
here we go again.
Yeah.
You've had a good?
Yeah,
was your good?
Yeah, ours is all good. I don't think there's anything that's kind of annoyed me this week.
My good is Thomas got his haircut. Now,
really?
Haircuts have always been an absolute nightmare. We've found the best hairdresser. You basically get an hour slot, and she just locks the place down, and it's just yours.
Wow.
Yeah, and she's so good with him.
Goodness
It's
me.
just like, get in, do a bit. That's fine.
Oh, you can jump off the chair, wander around a bit, come back.
Fine.
Yeah.
Fine. And then, do you want to try again? Very, very much like that. To the point where this time he went and he just sat there the whole time and
That's amazing.
just had his haircut. And we used to, we had a pair of my clippers. We would just, when he was in the bath, we would just kind of wave it around his head, turn on, wave it around his head just to get him used to the noise. And he'd be like this, but we weren't touching him, weren't cutting his hair. Just doing all that around his head, and then we turn it off. Just did that every time, and it's just desensitised him now to the point where he can cut his hair.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So good little tip. That might work, might not, but might. And also, he went to Home Bargains the other day. I took him to Home Bargains like 2 years ago, just as a let's just test it. Big shop, bit different. He likes Sainsbury's. I say he likes it. He puts up with Sainsbury's because there's he always just recognises it as the sweet style at the end. So it's just
and he's got a nectar card as well.
And he's got a nectar card, so he wants to get the points.
Yeah.
But don't have anything like that for Home Bargains, so he was a bit more reluctant. But he went to Home Bargains the other day, and it was an impromptu visit. It was just kind of out of the blue. Mish just had to go. She took him, and he just handled it absolutely fine.
Yeah,
so he's starting to really kind of, I think, trust us in if we're taking him into a situation, it's going to be okay. But if it's not, we will remove you.
Yeah.
We're not going to force you through anything horrendous. So we're kind of getting this little trust with him, which is quite nice.
I guess the school setting he's in at the moment, they do kind of trips out and about to kind of desensitise them and get them used to these environments as well.
I mean, that's another thing.
That does help.
Yeah, I mean, with
again, something you probably wouldn't get in the mainstream school.
No, exactly.
And
the whole specialist versus mainstream thing, like if you can get your kid into a specialist school, they're just the best.
Yeah.
They are so good. They know these kids, they know the behaviours, and if your kid doesn't need to go, then they will suggest it because they need the spaces. Yeah. But if you can, and not everybody can, and I totally get that, but if you can, just please take it. Yeah. You'll only be offered it if it's suitable. So chances are, if you're being offered it, your kid needs it.
Yeah, and the final thing I'd say about EHCPs is just start the. If you are worried, again, we've said this before, start the process. If you're waiting on stuff, just get on it.
Yeah.
Just be on top of it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a community, but at the same time, you need to get your child what they actually need.
Yeah.
So don't rest in your laurels. Don't be trusting of the system or the people behind the scenes. If you think you've waited too long, or it was supposed to be here on this day, and I've not heard anything, pick the phone up, get in touch with them. If it means kind of almost harassing people,
be that parent.
Be that parent. Yeah. It's unfortunate to say, it's not nice to say, but you need to look after your child. You need to get them what they want. At the same time, still advocate for other people. Still fight for the other parents and against any injustice in the system. Still be that voice as well. But just don't expect the system to do what it says on the side of the tin, because inevitably it doesn't.
No, mate. Perfect ending.
Perfect ending.
Right.
Not a particularly jolly one, but
not a jolly one, but I think it was necessary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please keep coming in the comments. Share all your stories. We'll try and share them. If you don't want to put them in the comments, if you want to be anonymous, and you've got anything you want to tell us, if you want anything you want us to share, we'll keep it anonymous. Drop it in the messages, and we'll, if you want us to, we'll share your stories, because there's a lot out there.
There is a lot.
A lot.
A lot.
Nice one. Cheers, guys. Cheers, dude.
No worries.
See you next week.
Speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.